Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much for your love and support of the Emily Awards. That series is all wrapped up if you're just now seeing this and you didn't realize it was out. 4 parts, Face, Eyes, Lips, and Finale are all up and waiting for you if you haven't seen them yet. So thank you again so much for watching that. This is a video that I kind of wanted to get out actually before the Emily Awards, but time just didn't allow it. And I know we're cutting it really close to the holidays right now, but just for your own knowledge and just because some of these things, you know, stay available for a while, I thought I would sort out for you my top palettes of this season. So some of them aren't really blatantly like a holiday release, but they're things that have come out here during this holiday time. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I haven't gotten to spend as much time with, but I really like. They're kind of like in-betweeners. And then some things that kind of disappointed me. So let's jump in. I've got 5 of my like home run, really love them palettes. One of these I haven't even talked about yet on here. First one I want to bring up is ABH Primrose. I love the color selection in this palette. Now it also does have a couple of shades over here that you can kind of wear as blushes. I think this one I may have tried to work on as a bronzer at one point, but ultimately they end up being like different tones of blush, and they may be more or less complementary to you depending on your skin tone, and they can also be eyeshadows. But the main deal here, I absolutely love the shadow selection and the shadow quality here. I love the deep tones. I also like this kind of unique shade right up in here, and sorry for my chippy nails, but this purpley shade that's kind of dusty and murky but still has enough like pop to show. And then these shimmers right here are so like pure and smooth and not like something really flaky that's hard to build on the eyes. I think I was wearing this during one of the Emily Awards videos, and it's just, these are combos of shades that I absolutely love. I thought this palette turned out amazingly well. They're larger pan sizes than you're normally going to get in an ABH palette. And yeah, this color scheme just feels like totally me. I love the little bit of warmth paired with plumminess. And again, this saddle shade, you know, sheared out on the skin, what it looks like is kind of a dusty peach, sort of. Something to experiment with there, like I said, or they can totally just be another eyeshadow for you in this palette. So I was really impressed with this one. I know kind of once it gets an initial mention and I'm moving through and trying other holiday palettes, it's like, well, she didn't come back and talk about that. Did she really like it? Well, I really did enjoy this one. So that's definitely a top one for me. Also, this Charlotte Tilbury Instant Eye Palette, Smoky Eyes Are Forever, has been one of my favorite things that Charlotte Tilbury has made, period. I absolutely love this one. This has a range in terms of going dark to light. It has texture variety. It has interesting color variety here. I love the greens. You also get some kind of rusty red tones, and then like just really standard, you know, black and dark brown that can be brought in to accent and deepen up all these other shades. You know, it's not a huge palette. It's really compact, and you can kind of take the cue of using these trios as they are designated. You know, they have love eyes, power eyes, happy eyes, and confident eyes, although this one, you know, very light, barely there look if you just use those 3. But it's fun for me to kind of bounce around, and more often than not, I pull from a couple of these sections to create a whole look. This is a really unique shade here, this one in the confident eyes. It's kind of like a smoky, shimmery mauve. I was just so happy with that on really all levels. And you know, if I'm raving about a Charlotte Tilbury product, I've really thought about, you know, is it worth the price? Is it really the real deal? And I love this. Another palette that I thought was great this season, I'm guessing it's not available anymore, but I need to give it a shout out, the It Girl Beauty Book. You can watch my specific review to see some of the areas where I might criticize a little bit, you know, like why all the pinky lip colors and why did we repeat some of the eyeshadow shades. But as a whole, this is one of the most useful and practical palettes that's out there because it folds in completely on itself, so it's a tiny footprint in your makeup collection, but you have things you can use as concealers. You have a huge setting powder here, a Bye Bye Pore setting powder, a great bronzer, a beautiful blush. They put in a highlight this year, 3 lip colors, and a bunch of eyeshadows, and also a brow color as well. Like it really is a pretty well thought out palette, even though sometimes I will come out and say in the video like, well, I might have made a different shade selection with this or that, but still, it's still something I would totally recommend and that I will continue to get use out of as I'm trying to throw together a quick look at times, because I can pull this out and know I just want to throw on maybe a tinted moisturizer or foundation with this, and I need to pull out my mascara, and other than that, I'm good. This is always an impressive release in my book, and it just does rank high for me overall in terms of a really useful and also innovative palette. Also the Bombina. This one was great too, was it not? I mean, I loved the looks I've created with this. What you're getting here is kind of a new Best of the Balm palette. So they've put in some of their new clean formulas here. Clean beauty green packaging is what they say. And today I'm actually wearing the Let's Bolt highlight. I have loved that one so much. I also have a full size of it, but they've got like one of the blushes from the Will Powder quad. They've got an It's a Date blush. Bronzilla, as I've said in my full review, it turned out way better in this palette than it was in my single. Couple of shades from the mail order palettes, and then the Balm and the Beautiful shades there too. It's a great little pairing of stuff for the kind of look that I like, you know, a neutral if not plummy eye, and then all of these shades work great for me on the face as well. Also, you can recycle the packaging. They let you poke out the pans there, and I think that's a really cool option too. It's not even going to be magnetic, so you have just the little flap, but I love that one. I continue to love it even more probably than when I reviewed it. I just think it's so handy, and it, you know, it's maybe not quite as all-encompassing as this palette is, but it's still got a lot going for it. And then finally, here's a palette that I really hadn't had much chance to mention yet, and it is the Patrick Ta Major Headlines Blush Palette. Okay, it was probably maybe not quite 2 months ago when I had this in my cart on the Sephora website, and then it sold out and I was not able to get it. Well, you know, when something sells out of your cart, like, you probably want it a little worse than you even did before at this point. So it's like, well, what about the Patrick Ta website? Well, they had it, so I ordered it, and it took weeks to get here. Like, I don't know if it was maybe back ordered, they didn't really indicate that, but it took a long time to get here. And once it did, like, I've been using it ever since, and I think it's so much fun. This is a bold blush palette, but if you look at Sephora's website and you look at the different models of all skin tones wearing these blushes, you will see that it is fully wearable for anyone. And what we have here is a little thoughtful window covering up your creams. Okay, so you just lift that up. It's 3 creams and 3 coordinating powders, and you don't have to wear them all together, and you don't have to stay in each color family. You could start off with that as a cream and then top it with that. But a lot of times what I have been doing is putting on the cream and then popping on also the coordinating powder blush color. There's no shimmer in any of this. It's really pigmented. Today I'm wearing this cream and this powder. That's the one called She's Baked. Then there's She's Vibrant and She's a Doll. And look, it's giving me kind of that toasty cheek idea, but like, it's not anything where it's like, wow, that's way too dark for you. Anybody can wear this stuff, and it's very pigmented. But yeah, I spent some time like wanting this and wishing I could have it, and it finally came, and I've just had a lot of fun with this. If you're a blush lover, if you know a blush lover, like, this is a really nice palette. So that kind of rounds out my top 5 palettes of the holidays. We have the Patrick Ta blush palette, the ABH Primrose. If you like to go a little darker and smokier, the Smoky Eyes Are Forever from Charlotte Tilbury, and a couple of multitasking gems here with the It Girl Beauty Book and the Bombina from the Balm. Okay, a couple of in-betweener things that I just haven't had quite as much time to play with, but I really like them. Okay, so one of them is the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette here. This is loaded with, I think, interesting shades. It's even prettier in person than I was able to get a feel for on the website. I like the pinky tones. I like kind of the neutral sort of stony colors here. It's interesting if you cover up that half, you get one kind of look, looking a little more neutral if you cover that. We have a jelly sort of shade that comes off with some iridescent shine and shimmer, and there's some really interesting accent shades as well. Some of them are so shimmery, I think I described them in a video as looking like TV static on your eyes. Like, there's some movement, the way they catch the light, they're really, really pretty. I love the quality of Huda shadows. I mean, there's rarely been a palette that she's put out that I've tried, even some of the smaller ones, where I've been like disappointed for any reason. I think they do some interesting things. They do some neat kind of like marbled shades, and then the mattes are really solid, and the shimmers, you know, they may take a little more care here and there just depending on their texture. Some are smoother, some are more so that sparkle consistency, but I think this palette has kind of a interesting, delicate vibe, and I do really like it. And they've taken, you know, some pastels, but then they've really pulled them down with some deeper colors that turned out to be deeper and richer than they even appeared online. So I really like that. And I also have been enjoying this little Rudolph palette. You guys, like, this came in PR. I didn't have time to even get it out. I was working on Emily Awards stuff. I see Boise Beauty getting on Instagram talking about how cute this is, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have that. And once Emily Awards wrapped up, I started using this, and this is, guys, this is such a cute palette, and it's a really good palette too. If you're looking at that thinking, it's childish, I say, so look at the shades. These are so my shades. I love the richness. Down here, you got some shimmer, you got some great mattes. These mattes, like, this is great on the border of something, so is that. Today I'm wearing this palette and I've got some of the greens on. So I've got like this on my outer corner of my lid. I've got this on the inner part of my lid. I started off in my crease with these two shades, and I also took some of the dark green like down below the eye just to smudge it a little bit. The quality is really nice. ColourPop tends to do a good job in their palettes. Sometimes it just comes back to shade selection for me as to why I may or may not like something, and these, I gotta say, these are my colors. And these are my colors even outside the holiday season too, so I love this. I've played around with some of the other stuff in the whole Rudolph collection, and this is Head & Shoulders the #1 best product in that grouping. But at the same time, you know, I still haven't had as much experience with this as I have all these other things. But that one and Rose Quartz are still like, they're on the up and up for me right now. Now, we need to talk about some other things here that you know I've been trying out. One of them is the Lorac Pro Palette Fairy Tale Forest. This didn't quite do it for me, you guys. First off, I think we think of this palette and we think of the green accent. While there's not a ton of green, there is some, and it's a deep shimmer, and it's really hard, I feel like, to make this shade show up really true to color and greenish on the eyes. You get kind of like a murkiness. I felt like I had to build it up a ton to be able to really make that stand out as something other than just deep neutral. So that was a little disappointing for me, just because I want those accents to show. If you're gonna go to the trouble to put a real accent in the palette, let's make it show. And really, I think it's not going to show unless it's done in a matte, a dark green like that, a dark green with shimmer. It's going to show on your eyes more if it's a dark green matte. So that kind of disappointed me a little bit. And also just the fact that when Lorac used to put out palettes, it was half matte, half shimmer. And that shimmer texture was always like buttery smooth, which some of these are, like really, really smooth. And some of these now we're getting into this kind of like flaky sparkle texture, which ultimately, I mean, I just kind of like it to be like the others. I don't know, I get it, maybe some of these are kind of a topper type shade. This is not a terrible palette. I mean, I already have Meraki from Lorac, and that suits me completely fine. I thought that was a great grouping of like kind of warm and cool. This palette does have some nice basics in here, and overall Lorac does really good quality things. But just trying what I've tried, knowing what I know now, I don't look back on this palette and think, gosh, that was a real must-have. Like, you're really missing out if you don't get this. I don't really have that feeling. Also, from Tarte. What's going on with Tarte? Putting out all kinds of versions of like the same palette. Like, didn't they have something called Juicy Palette, and how many versions have they made of that? And now they've taken the In Bloom and they've made a Full Bloom, and it's big. Tarte kind of skipped doing like random holiday palettes this year, and they're putting out more of like versions of things that are more known, I feel like. And what's up with putting out this many shades and one color that's that dark? I got problems here. I got issues with that, okay? Like, we do have some medium to deep things going on down here, but we need like several shades that are really nice and rich, because we've got so much lightness. And a lot of these shades, are they good quality? Yes. Like, I've bounced around, I've done multiple looks with this palette. You're gonna get mostly like a rosy thing going on here, although you can pull out kind of a warm eye. Look at these two rows right here. You can do kind of a warm eye minus the rosy, but there's like warm rosy and cooler rosy, or more mauve, I should say. And again, quality will allow you to turn out some decent looks, but also I see a lot of like kind of unnecessary sort of overlapping shades that are really close, like we're trying to pull out this big palette, and then I don't know, I feel like there's some stuff that I look at and I'm like, gosh, you know, they're so similar, did we need that shade and that shade? And there is a little semi-richness going on down here, but I would like to see even more that would translate on the eyes. It's like a really nice dark shade to balance out some of this lightness here. And I feel like I'm gonna want to keep using it. Like, I do like the quality. I feel like I'm gonna want to pull for this at times and do maybe kind of a rosy look, but I will always be craving maybe something a little bit darker in the eye look than just always having to go down to this shade when I want real contrast or something really kind of smoky with it. Why do I just feel like this isn't really majorly speaking to me right now? Like, it's all right, but I look at it and I'm kind of like, ugh, you know, but Tarte just sort of sticks in one general color scheme and there's not a lot interesting off the beaten path stuff going on. Get a Huda palette, it's like, okay, this is giving me some new directions. And then Tarte came out with this 4-pack where they like took well-known products that they make and like named a palette after it. Like they did the Park Avenue Princess. This has been a palette in the past, but this bronzer shade over here, y'all, only if you're lighter than me is that really gonna show on you. Like, that barely shows up on me. Blush is okay, highlight's okay, but that is such a light shade. I mean, richer skin tones, it's not even going to go there for you at all. So that was kind of disappointing. The palette labeled Lights, Camera, Lashes. This is going to amount to a really, really soft look. These shades, I will say, like these 3 show up with a bit more depth than they appear to have in the pan, but it's still just a really soft, light look. So, okay, you know, they can do what they want, but that's in there. The one labeled Tartelette, you remember this was like the original palette Tarte came out with that kind of got people going on their eyeshadows. And here they've stuck in one shimmer. That was originally a purely matte, kind of cool palette. Like, everything you see here sort of follows the vibe of Tartelette, but they did throw in one shimmer. It's okay. Again, it's not going to go real dark. You're basically kind of left at a mid-tone level with this palette, but it's a little darker than that last one I showed you. And then Big Ego, which is named after a mascara that they make. Here we've got some purpley berry shades. So you kind of ask yourself with this, do I like the 6-pan idea here? Is this more user-friendly to me? Does this like help me feel a little safer in choosing an eyeshadow look than using a big giant palette does? Because I will say that most every shade in these little palettes, with the exception of that pink and plum over there on the side of this one, most every other shade in like this or this one can be found, and that look can kind of be duplicated with the larger palette. So if you're kind of wondering, what do I need to get? Personally, I don't think any of this is a must-have, but this palette probably contains everything going on here. Plus, yeah, I mean, that Park Avenue Princess palette really did not show up well at all. If you're going to stick a bronzer in there, we need a little more richness. Maybe I'm just prone to being a little more critical on a remake palette, you know, a palette that's clearly just bouncing off, piggybacking off of a already really successful palette. I mean, In Bloom, gosh, haven't I done videos where I talked about how that's one of the still the best-selling palettes at Ulta, you know? People really love that, and that's great for Tarte, but like, okay, now we're just gonna make it bigger. We're gonna add more shades to it. Like, they probably added more pinky stuff into that whole color scheme and vibe, and if you like it, go for it, because the quality is good. Like, you're not gonna open that up and be like, ugh, you know, they skimped on the way these shadows feel. For me, I just feel like it's a really big palette that didn't have to be that big, and I was just surprised that it was that big, but didn't have more darkness to help kind of balance out some of the light. But just my opinion, just wanted to chat about that because I know I alluded to the fact in past videos that I was going to be trying that stuff, and I didn't want to leave you hanging on it any longer. So thank you guys for your time today. Thanks for hearing me out as we talk palettes here, one of my favorite topics in makeup. Let me know your opinions in the comments section, and I will see you again very soon. I love you. Bye.